Following day, we all gathered together in the spacious hall in the basement of the Hyoto residence. We members of the Grimoire Familia were joined by Irina, Azazel, Barkiel, and the Citra Familia, and Team Volley. There was a heavy awkwardness about the room as we all took our seats around the table. It felt weird to host Volley and Biko in my own home. The press had been adamant against them coming here, but after hearing out Azazel and Sir Zax, she had reluctantly acquiesced. Sir Zax, why did you let these guys step foot in my house? That it had something to do with them helping rescue Azia? That couldn't be it. Why would Volley and his goons want to team up anyway? What did they have to get out of it? Volley had claimed that it was for defeating Loki, but had he been honest? I had no way of confirming. Old Man Odin and Rosvice were in the other room, contacting their homeland. Loki's presence in Japan must have been causing a big sink for the Norse gods too. In any event, our discussions about how to handle Loki were already underway. The Demon King Zerzex was already aware of the situation. All vital information had been conveyed to Heaven and other underworld officials too. The three great powers had agreed to work together to ensure the success of Old Man Odin's beating with the Japanese gods. That said, they had essentially agreed that those in this room were already used to working with each other, and so we were the ones to actually handle the issue. In other words, the higher-ups had ordered us to take Loki on alone. Our opponent was a deity, yet the more significant issue was that giant wolf of his, Fenrir. That monster's power had surpassed even his creator. From what I heard, Fenrir's abilities were comparable to the two heavenly dragons before they were sealed away in their respective sacred gears. Not even Azazel or Tanin would be able to defeat him alone. Of course, Volley and I still couldn't fully draw on the original strength of the two heavenly dragons. The fight was over before it began. There was a possibility of success if we used our Juggernaut drive, but if I did that, I would die. Volley would end up exhausting his demonic powers, and even if he did manage to defeat Fenrir, he wouldn't last long against Loki in that state. We might have a chance if everyone else was willing to put their lives on the line, but there would inevitably be sacrifices. Casualties were expected going in. Unfortunately, there was little hope of reinforcements. The hero faction was still sending out its sacred gears and causing disarray, sowing chaos between all factions. The three great powers in the Norse gods were on maximum alert and were unable to divide their forces. Knowing that, our priority was to find an alternate approach that would involve as few sacrifices as possible. You first, Volley. What's your reason for helping us? Azazel, standing in front of the whiteboard, asked the question that was on everyone's minds. Yeah, we all wanted to know why he was aiding us. It felt so weird. Volley's lips curled in a fearless grin. I simply desire to fight Loki and Fenrir. Biko and the others already agreed to help. Is that not enough? He truly was battle-obsessed. How crazy do you have to be to want to throw yourself in harm's way? Azazel frowned at that response. Yeah, that isn't enough. I can't deny that we need your help, however. Thanks to the hero faction, we got no reserves to spare. Some are concerned that your actions might be connected to those of the hero faction, but knowing you, I doubt you'd cooperate with people like that. Had Volley's suggestion been meant as a threat? Team up and defeat Loki together, or don't team up, and he would fight us all one-on-one to build up enough experience to defeat Loki afterward? Sir Zex also considered our options, but in the end, he decided he couldn't dismiss an offer of assistance from a descendant of a former Demon King. He's definitely got a naive streak, but I agree that it'll be better to have you working with us than roaming free. This is only temporary. There's still much about you that we can't condone, the press interjected. It looked like she had a fair amount of complaints lined up, but since her older brother had already rendered his judgment, she was unable to voice them. Chairwoman Sona, too, looked to have a similar disposition. Judging by her expression, she was also dissatisfied. Keeping an eye on Volley and his allies was better than letting them act as they pleased. But it wasn't best to say that to their faces. Begrudgingly or not, the press had agreed to this, meaning that I would have to do so too. However, if Volley did anything weird, I wouldn't stop myself from hitting him. Azia, ever the saint, didn't look like she had too many qualms about accepting help from the terrorists. Volley had saved her life. The rest of the Gremlin family regarded the situation about as well as Riaz, but they must have accepted things for the moment as they all remained quiet. Azazel continued to stare intently at Volley. "You're up to something, aren't you?" he pressed. "Who knows?" "Any suspicious movements, and I think would be warranted to cut you down." "I have no intentions of doing anything fishy, but anyone who attacks me will come away from it far more than a warning," Volley replied, his grin unwavering. "Well, let's put that on hold for now. We need to talk about how to handle Loki. I'm hoping to turn the matter to an expert on him, and Fenrir." The press blinked a few times in disbelief. "You're asking someone else?" Azazel nodded. "Yeah, I know someone who's pretty well versed on them, so I'm having him give us a few pointers." Raising my hand, I inquired, who exactly?" "One of the 5 great demon kings, the sleeping dragon, Midgardsamar." "Dragon King? What do they have to do with anything?" "Midgardsamar is the obvious choice, but what makes you think that he'll respond to you?" Folly asked. "We'll use the combined powers of the 2 heavenly dragons and the Dragon Kings Fafnir, Viritra, and Tanin to open up the Dragon Gates. Doing so, we can summon Midgardsamar's consciousness while keeping his body dormant in the depths of the seas of the northern Europe." I had no idea anything like that was even possible. Legendary dragons were full of surprises. "Does that mean you need me too? To be honest, I feel like I'm surrounded by monsters here," Saji said timidly. "The Sacred Gear House of Dragon Viritra. You'll be one of the essential elements to making it work. You can leave most of the efforts to the 2 heavenly dragons and me, however. For now, just wait until I get in touch with Tanin. And I'll need to discuss potential countermeasures with Shamhazai too. Please wait here on standby, everyone. Barkul, let's go." "Very well." The 2 fallen angels promptly left the meeting hall. Now it was just the Occult Research Club, the Student Council, and the members of Team Volley. "Red Dragon Emperor." Pico raised his hand. "What?" I asked nervously. Pico flashed me a mischievous grin. "Can I use the pool downstairs?" That question had come so far out of left field that I had no idea how to respond. The prince took a step forward, pointing at Biko. "Hey, this house belongs to me and Issei Hyoto, the Red Dragon Emperor. I won't permit you to use it however you please." It sounded like my home was a shared property with her now. Well, selfish remarks like that weren't entirely new for the press. Not letting Biko use the pool was seriously mistrustful, but I couldn't blame her. He was affiliated with an enemy organization. "What's the problem, Switch Princess?" The press slapped Biko on the face. The sound of it echoed throughout the room. Biko stared back at her, his eyes welling in tears. "Ow! What was that for, Switch Princess?" "You. All because of you. Everywhere I go in the underworld, people are calling me all sorts of weird names." The press was furious and on the verge of tears. She was literally shaking with rage. Clearly, Riaz wasn't too pleased about her new moniker. Now that I thought about it, Biko had been the first person to call her by that name, and now Hazel was using it all the time as well. "It's fine, isn't it? I've been watching Breast Dragon too, you know. I'm honored that they would use the term I invented." Biko let out an amused chortle. It looked like he truly did enjoy it. "Am I truly expected to continue suffering this insult?" The prince, on the other hand, clearly found Biko's attitude intolerable and was trembling with fury. Her crimson aura was already fanning dangerously. So, this is the final Lost Excalibur. Wow, it's amazing." "Indeed. Volley uncovered some vital clues through his personal connections. And when we compared this information with the records kept by my family, we were able to uncover it. The precise location must remain a secret, however." Across the room, Irina and Arthur were discussing the Lost Excalibur. Irina's buoyant personality could be quite useful at times like this. He had a way of getting along with people. Nearby, Kiba and Zenobia were listening cautiously. As they were both swords fighters, they were naturally wary of the legendary Holy Sword. Azia tugged at my shirt. She was all but squirming in hesitation. What is it, Azia? Um, she turned her gaze toward Volley. I realized at once what she was asking. You want to go thank him? She nodded silently in the affirmative. Recently, Volley had rescued Azia when she found herself hurled into the dimensional void. She probably wanted me to thank him on her behalf for the deed. Ah, Azia, you're such a good, honest young woman. My pride and joy. As dangerous as Volley might be, I couldn't refuse the request. After taking Azia's hand, I approached the person in question. Volley was still in his seat, his legs crossed as he read a complex-looking book. Volley, can we have a moment? What is it, Ise Hyodo? With a little urging, Azia stepped towards him. Thank you for saving me the other day. Right. I only did it on a whim. Let's not worry about it. Once he finished speaking, Volley's gaze returned to his book at once. That was probably enough. I tugged on Azia's hand, retreating to a safe distance from that bastard. There was no way I would ever see eye to eye with him. While I was leading Azia away from Volley, another pair of individuals caught my attention. It was Konako and Kuroka. The former was on high alert, glaring across at her sister, who looked to be content to wear a soft, bewitching smile. Konako's sister is beautiful, but she is also so scary. Casper was trembling behind Konako's back. Hey, Casper, don't hide behind a girl like that. Was Kuroko trying to bully Konako again? I approached the two, putting myself between them. I won't let you take Konako, I said to Kuroko point blank. Konako grabbed my hand and quickly slinked behind my back. She still didn't like being around her sister. I would have to protect her. Kuroko wore a puzzled look for a few seconds before beaming mischievously at me. Her gaze all but threatened to bore straight through me. Oh, your face has gotten so manly since I last saw you. Is that what happens when you unlock your balance breaker? Or have you learned the pleasures of a woman? Meow. That wink of hers as she finished with that cow sound was undeniably cute. I suppose any sibling of Konako's would be attractive. Still, I couldn't afford to forget that she was the living embodiment of malice and ill intent. A part of me had to wonder if Konako would be this enrapturing in a few years' time, however. If so, she would be a serious beauty. I couldn't wait to see it. No, such lecherous thoughts had to wait until later. I shook my head. I had to be ready to throw my life on the line if I needed to protect Konako. I took a step backward. A soft, wet sensation had slid across my cheek. Then I realized that Kuroka had left her tongue peeking seductively from her mouth. You still taste like a virgin to meow. Well, I'm sorry about that. I couldn't help but respond with anger. I mean, she had been right on the mark. Hold on. Could she tell as much by taste? That Nekomata sage magic of hers wasn't to be underestimated. Hey, could you do something for Meow? What? Make a baby with Meow? Huh? I was completely taken aback. What did she just say? Ignore my bewilderment, Kuroka explained. I want a dragon child. A super strong dragon child. I asked Vali already, but he refused. You're the only one left. Dragons in human form are so rare, but the genes of one of the two heavenly dragons will be more than enough. I want to leave behind a child, so I need a gene donor like you. What on earth was she saying? My child? Zenobia had requested practically the same thing. Roka clearly possessed some ulterior motive, however. Are the genes of a heavenly dragon really so enticing? I guess I am a legendary dragon. Maybe I could use that fact to help start my harem. I thought about it for a moment, but I just couldn't picture it. If there was actually a market for that, then I could start selling my genes on the side. It might make a good business. The more I considered it, the more it felt like a troubling notion, though. This is a bargain, no? I'll let you sleep with Meow until we make a baby. Roka continued. I very nearly accepted her offer on the spot, but I could feel the stern glare of the petite girl behind me sending shivers down my spine, so I kept my mouth shut. Kuroko broke into a fit of laughter at Konoko's reaction. I won't let you have instincts. I hadn't been able to make out the second half of that sentence, but judging by Kuroko's reaction, she had. She flashed us both an amused grin and, with a wave of her hand, crossed the room to sit near Volley. From her spot in the corner of the room, Akano let out a sigh. She had been acting that way ever since Barko had joined us. Was she really okay with the joint operation? You cursed monkey, I'll destroy you. Come at me, Switch Princess. The present Beak are fighting again. Once Azazel returned, he, Volley, Saji, and I used a teleportation circle to jump to a new destination. This was all part of our plan to summon a Dragon King. Apparently, it wouldn't work unless we were all in a specially prepared location. We arrived in the empty white space. Was this one of those artificial planes used to host raiding games? I glanced around, but there was absolutely nothing to see, except a huge dragon waiting for us that was...
I haven't seen you all in days.
He joked. Mean. Yeah, it was my old training mentor. Caesar said that we would need his help summoning whatever his name was.
So, this one is Veritra.
The giant dragon was staring down at the now trembling Saji. Dragon King, an ultimate class dragon demon. His feelings, it seemed, were a mix of terror and admiration. Quit worrying, I assured my comrade in virginity. The old lizard might look intimidating on the outside, but he's a good guy. Idiot! You can't call him that! This is Tanin, the ultimate class demon we're talking about. Seriously, Saji? I mean, sure, he was amazing, but wasn't that a little too much? Saji jabbed his finger at me. Only the greatest of demons are chosen to be elevated to the ultimate class. Heck, everyone in the rating game top 10 is an ultimate class demon. Reaching that level means contributions to the underworld, spectacular performance in rating games, and unmatched natural abilities. It's the greatest honor and highest ranking there is. Saji explained enthusiastically. So, Tani was that great, was he? An ultimate class demon. I wanted to aim for those heights too. Unfortunately, contributing to the underworld was really only possible when you had your own territory there. This will be a long, steep road.
White Dragon Emperor, I will rip you apart at the first sign of trouble.
Tanin glared at Volley, who merely flashed at a huge dragon a smirk. Zazel began the incantation without a delay, drawing a special magic circle on the ground. As light ran through those lines, it formed a unique pattern.
Are you sure he'll come? I've only ever met him 2 or 3 times myself.
Tanin commented with a sigh. So long as the 2 heavenly dragons are here, he'll have to respond, whether he likes it or not. Caesar answered, as he added more to the magic circle. Is he a fussy old dragon? I asked. Zazel squinted in response. Basically, he never moves. He's the kind of creature whose awakening is said to signal the end of the world. He doesn't wake up unless he needs to take action. He has surfaced out in the world a couple of times, but he was still slumbering during every instance. A few hundred years ago, he finally declared that he would await the world's end at the bottom of the ocean. And he's a Dragon King. Just what was the standard used to qualify for that position? I get why he was so hard to contact, at least. Meeting someone at the bottom of the ocean was almost impossible. The magic circle is ready. Now everyone, stand in your designated places. As Zazel's urging, we all took position around the magic circle. Apparently, the design used in this array was supposed to represent the 2 heavenly dragons and the other various dragon kings. Once we were all prepared, Azazel made some final adjustments with the miniature magic circle he was holding in his hand. A faint glow ran through the lines of her feet. The area closest to me was glowing red, while that around Volley shone white. Azazel's area was golden, while Saji's was black and Tanin's was purple.
The shades reflect the characteristics of each dragon,
Greg explained.
They aren't here with us right now, but just so you know, Tiamat is blue, and Yulong, green.
Huh? To be honest, I didn't really get what the colors had to do with anything. The magic circle activated. Nonetheless, there was no response. and so we maintained our position for a few minutes. Was Mid, whatever his name was, truly going to show himself? Or his consciousness, at least? Just as I began to wonder if our efforts were for nothing, something began to seep from the magic circle. A stereoscopic projection appeared above us. My jaw dropped as the scale of the image kept on expanding. Saji was just as shocked as I was. And then, a gigantic monster towered above us, filling the entirety of the empty space. He was enormous, huge. There was no doubt about it. He was even bigger than the Great Red. This dragon resembled a giant serpent. His head was the same shape as Tanin's. His coral body must have been impossibly long. So he's a long, slender dragon then? Well, wait. I heard something about there being two types of dragons in the world. Western type ones like Tanin, and thin, elongated Eastern type ones. My shock must have been written plain for all to see, as Tanin began to explain.
Midgardsormr is the largest of our kind. Probably around 5 or 6 times the size of the Great Red.
That would make him 500 or 600 meters long, right? That was more massive than any monster I've ever imagined. A loud, uncanny noise filled my ears, only adding to my trepidation. He's snoring. He's asleep.
As I thought, he slumbers. Hey, wake up, Midgardsormr.
Tanin called out. Only then did the huge monster open his eyes.
I've felt this pulse before. A dragon.
He let out a huge yawn. His mouth was just as enormous as the rest of him. He could have swallowed Tanin whole.
Tanin, how long has it been?
He asked leisurely. Midgard Sormor, right? He glanced around at each of us in turn.
Drake, and Albion too. Fafnir, and Veritra. Oh, is the world ending already? No, it isn't. We called you because we need to ask you something.
And responded, and yet, Midgardsormr started snoring all over again. No way. He had fallen asleep in the middle of the conversation.
Wake up! You and Yulong are always so indolent. I won't stand for this.
Tani was mad now. Midgardsormr opened his huge eyes once more.
And you are always quick to anger, Tanin. What do you wish to inquire about? It's about your brother and father.
Tanin stated. His brother and father? That's why we're here? What about Loki and Fenrir? I turned to Azazel, confused. Midgardsormr was originally created by Loki, but his huge body and legendary lethargy, not even the Norse gods knew what to do with him. They encouraged him to sleep to his heart's content under the sea, so long as he promised to ruse himself at the world's end. I guess that explains his aliases. The sleeping dragon, the dragon of the end. He must really love dozing.
Daddy and Bow Wow.
Midgardsormr replied.
I don't mind. I don't much care for either of them anyway. But Tanin, let me confirm something. Are Drake and Albion not going to fight?
That massive serpent's equally huge eyes were fixed on volleying me. Tanin snorted.
No, they aren't. They joined forces to defeat Loki and Fenrir.
Midgardsormr seemed to find that prospect amusing, his maw curling with a grin.
Oh, interesting. I was wondering why they were standing so casually next to each other,
he said before turning back to the topic at hand.
Bow Wow will be more trouble than Daddy. You survive an encounter with those fangs. But he does have one weakness. The dwarven chain of Gleipnir is strong enough to bind him. With that, you'll be able to keep him at bay.
Oh, wow, huh? Well, from Midgardsormr's point of view, Fenrir must have been like a miniature puppy.
We've already looked into that. Unfortunately, the information from the Norse pantheon suggests that Gleipnir didn't work last time. I was hoping that you could share another strategy.
Tanin responded. I was having a hard time keeping up with the two dragons, but so long as the others knew what was going on, I suppose that didn't matter.
I see. Perhaps Daddy enhanced Bow Wow then. If so, you should seek out the Dark Elves of Northern Europe. Their elders should know how to reinforce the magic of the dwarven artifacts. I'll transmit the location of the elves to Drake and Albion Seeker Gears.
Azazel pointed to Volley. Send it to the White Dragon Emperor. We'll have a hard time getting out of the other one. His mind isn't all there. Wow, sorry for being such an idiot. Insulted though I was, I couldn't help but whisper. So, elves and dwarves really do exist. I mean, I had only ever heard of those kinds of things being in fantasy novels and movies. Then again, if angels and demons could exist, it didn't seem too far-fetched. They're mostly withdrawn to an alternate dimension to escape environmental changes, but some continue to reside in a few distant corners of the world. Volley, having received the information, spoke up. I have it, Azazel. Activate a projection of the globe. Azazel pulled out his phone and displayed a three-dimensional map of the world. Volley pointed to the area on the map, and Azazel immediately sent the location to the others waiting back at home.
You're full of information, I see.
And he remarked to Midgardsimer with an obvious admiration.
Well, the elves and dwarves take care of me when I go up to the surface.
Wouldn't it be a major incident if a guy rose up from the sea? He was simply too huge. Now that we know how to tackle our first problem, Tani moved on to the next.
What about Loki? Mjolnir might work against Daddy.
Azazel cupped his chin in his hands. In other words, we'll still have to attack him head on. I wonder if the Norse thunder god Thor would be willing to take part with Mjolnir if Odin asked him for it. I doubt he'll offer it readily. Only gods are capable of wielding weapons like that, Volley pointed out.
In that case, try asking the dwarves or the other dark elves. They should be holding on to Odin's Mjolnir replica.
You're a wellspring of knowledge, huh? Thanks, Midgardsimer, Azazel said with clear gratitude.
No. It's fun to chat every once in a while. But it's time. I need to sleep.
Midgardsimer let out another massive yawn as the projection began to fade away.
I owe you my thanks too,
Tanine added. Midgardsimer's maw twisted into a contented grin.
Don't worry about it. Wake me up if something big happens.
With those parting words, the projection faded away entirely. Midgardsimer, he was one weird dragon. Would I ever meet him again? And so, having received the information we needed, we set to action. After breakfast the next morning, everyone gathered in an underground hall again. The Gremir and the Situ Familiar were skipping school today. However, we were sending familiars disguised as ourselves to keep up appearances. Our decisive confrontation with Loki was fast approaching, so we all needed to take a break to prepare. Nonetheless, those familiar members who were looking forward to school were dejected. All of us liked going to Kuo Academy. I loved it there. Chairwoman Sona seemed particularly frustrated that we couldn't go, perhaps because so many responsibilities fell on her as the student council chairwoman. She had to be fretting something would go awry in her absence. Zazel, grumbling under his breath, entered the room. His expression looked unusually sour. I come with a present from that good-for-nothing old geezer Odin. It's a replica of Mjolnir. He really did go and hide it in the middle of nowhere. How the hell did Midgardsimer know about it? Is it that incredible? I asked. It's a replica of the hammer used by the Norse thunder god, Thor, Azazel explained. It's filled with divine lightning. Did sound impressive. Yes. Lord Odin is willing to lend you the replica of Mjolnir. Red Dragon Emperor, here you go. Rosvice stated before presenting me with a totally average-looking hammer. Huh? This is it? It looked like the kind of tool an everyday carpenter might use, excluding a bit of fancy engraving on it. There was nothing to set it apart. Direct your aura through it. As Rosvice instructed, I focused my demonic powers on the hammer. There was a sudden flash of light, and the hammer abruptly increased in size. The Mjolnir replica grew taller than I was, and slammed hard into the ground. The whole building shuddered at the force of the impact. It was so heavy that its weight had smashed through the floor. I tried as hard as I could to lift the hammer back up, and it wouldn't budge. It was just too heavy. Maybe I could do it in my balance breaker state. Even then, I wasn't certain that I could swing it around with any degree of control. Hey, you poured too much power into it. Tone it down, Miss Hazel scolded with a sigh. When I decreased my aura as instructed, the Mjolnir replica shrunk back to a manageable size until it was a perfect fit for my hand. It was still too heavy. Try as I might, it refused to yield. After watching me struggle for a bit, Azazel explained, "You should be able to lift it if you activate your balance breaker. For now, just let it go." I released the hammer as ordered and watched it return to its normal original size.
It might be a replica, but it's almost as strong as the real thing. Normally, only a god would be able to wield it, but with some help from Barkiel, I modified it so that demons can hold it too. Don't swing it around too carelessly, got it? The high energy lightning stored in that thing could lay waste to this whole area.
Seriously? Whoa, that's terrifying. I shrank back in fear at the teacher's warning. Why was he given such a dangerous weapon to me? But if I transfer my boosted power into it, that might be enough to defeat Loki.
Volley, why don't you go see that old Cloud Odin? He might have something special for you too.
Caesar remarked with evident amusement. Please, Teach, stop. I pleaded silently. My rival was already strong enough. At this rate, he would be unstoppable. Surprisingly, Farley shook his head in refusal. No need. I'm planning to master this heavenly dragon's original power. I don't need any extra equipment. No, what I seek is something else. The declaration had struck something within me. He had an abundance of inherent talent. His abilities were more than strong enough, even without putting in inordinate amounts of effort into training or acquiring new techniques. Like I had to do. I was told that I would never surpass him in terms of demonic power or abilities. Even Volley's physical prowess came into him naturally, while I needed to practice constantly to maintain mine. It was beyond frustrating. The stats of my supposedly fated rival far eclipsed my own. No, I reminded myself, I still have room for growth. One of these days, I would find a new path to greatness and defeat him. I had to. I couldn't give up. One of these days, I would definitely...
Oh, Biko, I've got a message for you too.
Azazel remarked offhandedly, turning to face the descendant Sun Wukong.
Huh? For me?
He questioned, pointing at his own face in bewilderment.
Who from? I'll read it out. You belligerent fool. You're in for a good discipline when I find you. It's signed, The First. Sounds like he's out searching for you with Sun Yulong.
Sweat plastered Biko's forehead, his face turning pale.
Gramps, he must have realized that I teamed up with terrorists. And Yulong too.
Given Biko's usual cheerful spirit, I would have never expected him to see looking so panicked. The First. Does that mean the original Sun Wukong, by any chance? Biko, should we drop in on your hometown? It should be interesting meeting the first Sun Wukong and the great Yulong.
Cut it out, Volley. I thought Yulong was supposed to be retired. But even putting him aside, my Gramps is the real monster. And he's still active. The level of his sage and beast magic is seriously off the charts.
This guy had thrown himself into battle with Tanin, but he was visibly terrified at his predecessor. Speaking of which, Tanin would apparently be joining us the day of the battle with Loki, and was waiting on standby down in the underworld. For that, at least, I felt reassured. He would be fighting alongside us. Azazel cleared his throat before addressing us all.
Let's go over our strategy. First, we'll wait for Loki to appear at the meeting place. Once he arrives, the Sea-Tree Familia will transport him and Fenrir to a safer location, an abandoned quarry. It's a wide open area and durable enough to survive a decent rampage. Issa and Volley, our two heavenly dragons, will be pivotal to our counter strategy, taking on Loki. Our other members, the Grimmy Familia, along with Team Volley, will deal with Fenrir. Your job is to use the Gleipnir to bind him. Whatever happens, you have to make sure Fenrir can't get to Odin. That creature's fangs could destroy a god. Not even the chief god of the Norse will survive them. We have to prevent that at any cost.
That was our battle plan. The Sea-Tree Familia would transfer our enemies and us to a safe location, where Volley and I would fight Loki together, while the others tried to ensnare Fenrir. There was a lot of pressure being put on us all here. My opponent was a real-life god. Even with me fighting alongside Volley, there was no guarantee that this would end well. I suppose that we didn't have much choice, though. You really never knew what life was going to throw at you.
Alright, we left the chain with the Dark Elf Elders, so we'll just have to wait for them to finish it. All that's left
It's Saji. What is it, Mr. Azazel? You're essential to the strategy. Varitra is contained in your sacred gear, after all. She was so shocked by being caught out like this. His eyes all but popped out of his sockets. Oh, hold on. I don't have any crazy powers like Hyodo or the White Dragon Emperor. I thought we would just be transferring to anyone else to the battlefield. Saji couldn't hide his dismay. His abilities would certainly be effective, but I had to admit that he would still have a hard time facing Loki or Fenrir. Seiza was undoubtedly aware of that too, and merely breathed a sigh. I'm not telling you to fight on the front line, but I do want you to support everyone with Varicho's powers. Issei and Vali in particular will be counting on you. Support them? You're going to need a little extra training, however. There's something I want to try out. Sona, I'm going to borrow him for a little while. Teach declared with the chairwoman. Very well. But where will you be taking him? The Fallen Angel territory in the underworld. To the Gregory Research Institute. Azazel said with a grin. I knew that face. Saji was in for some hellish practice. Speaking from experience, when Azazel got this excited, someone was undoubtedly about to be subjected to true hell. I may have only known him for a few months, but I come to understand that part of him only too well. Saji, Teach's training is fiendish. I almost died from the regimen he planned for me. And you're going to the Research Institute. I hope you prepared a will. I patted my friend on the shoulder, flashing him a look of pity and consolation. My words only served to amplify poor Saji's worry. All right, then. Let's go. Zazel grabbed Saji by the collar and activated a magic circle. Seriously, help me! Hyodo, chairwoman! The magic circle burst into light, enveloping the weeping Saji. Well, my friend, we won't ever forget you. I had to wonder how he would be able to assist Volley and me, though. Just what was Azazel thinking?
Varitra lay dormant within that youth until the battle with you. That must have something to do with it,
Drake said. If that was true, then I would be looking forward to seeing what Saji was capable of. By the way, Drake, aren't you going to talk with Albion? I inquired. This was a rare reunion for the two dragons. Surely, they must have a lot to talk about.
No, there was nothing to discuss, is there, White?
This time, Drake spoke out loud so that everyone could hear him.
Don't speak to me. No so-called breast dragon emperor is worthy of being my nemesis.
Albion's reaction was beyond cold.
Wait, don't misunderstand. It's my host, Issei Hyodo, who people are calling that.
Drake cried back, trying to defend himself. Hey, don't put this all on me. Admittedly, this was my fault.
Using breasts to awaken and deactivate your juggernaut drive. I felt like weeping when I saw the depths to which you have been reduced, Red.
Albion's voice was heavy with disappointment. Drake broke down into tears.
I cried too. I couldn't stop. How could this have happened? We, the proudly and noble Heavenly Dragons. Do you realize how saddened I was to see my rival reduced to the level of a children's television hero? Breast dragon indeed.
What's going on here? These legendary dragons, the two heavenly dragons, were both distraught. Polly seemed just as troubled by the unusual scene. Albion, are you crying again? You wept back when we watched the children's show modeled on Issei Hyodo. He did? I made both heavenly dragons sob? He turned to face me, his face clouded. Sorry about this, Issei Hyodo. I don't suppose you know how to comfort them when they get like this. How would I? Anyway, I'm sorry about being the best dragon, okay? What was I supposed to do? While I dealt with this odd situation, everyone else continued with the arrangements for our upcoming confrontation with Loki. Everyone set about the preparations. The president and I were in my room, trying to work out how to use Mjolnir. We hadn't got too far into it when a magic circle appeared in the center of the floor, from which a silver-haired maid had emerged. It was Gravia, carrying what looked like a pile of documents. Lady Riez, I have brought information relating to Glepnir. The enchanted chain will be delivered directly to the battlefield on the day of the confrontation. Thank you, Gravia. As I accepted the papers and began to leaf through them. Now that both the present Gravia were here, a certain question came to my mind. Uh, um, I began, my voice faltering. Seeing as you're both here, there's something I want to ask. Gravia turned her cool eyes towards me. She was Sir Zach's queen and his wife. On top of that, she was Milicus's mother. What is it? She pressed. I was a little unsure how to put this, but I decided to bite the bullet. It's about Akano. Why doesn't she get along with her dad? I mean, Barkio doesn't seem so bad to me. Griffey and the Prez exchanged glances. After a brief silence, the Prez chose to speak up. She has bitter memories. Akano's mother had been a shrine maiden at a famous Japanese temple. Her name was Shuri Himejima. Akano had elected to take her mother's surname. One day, Barkio, having been gravely wounded in an encounter with the enemy forces, appeared near her temple. Akano's mother saved the wounded fallen angel, nursing him back to health. Akano's mother had established a close relationship with Barkio, and before long, she was pregnant, Grafia explained. The press took over from there. Barkio couldn't leave Akano or her mother behind, and so she stayed nearby while continuing to work for the fallen angel leader remotely. They had a quiet and peaceful life. However, that happiness didn't last. Akano's mother's relatives misunderstood the situation, thinking that the Blackwing fallen angel had robbed her of her free will, and so they called on several famous shamanistic practitioners. Barkio didn't have much trouble driving the shamans away. Having been so soundly defeated, there were some among them that wanted revenge. They informed the enemies of the fallen angels of Barkio's location, Grafia said. There was a sorrowful cast of the Prez's eyes. It all came down to bad luck. Barkio just happened to be out that day. His enemies attacked Akano and her mother without hesitation. By the time Barkio realized the danger and returned, Akano's mother had already died protecting her daughter. The attack had drilled into Akano just how much her father, as a fallen angel leader, was despised by his enemies. And they drove that point home by murdering her mother right in front of her very eyes. Since that day, Akano Himejima has borne a resounding negative view on the fallen angels. And of course, she still resents her mother's murder and closed her heart to Lord Barkio. Grafia's explanation left me speechless. I had never expected anything so extreme. A few years afterward, Akano, being half fallen angel herself, was driven away by her family. She wandered alone, with no home to call her own until she met the Prez. But you know, Issei, when Akano joined my familia, she found a new purpose as a demon. She was happier, and after meeting you, her attitude toward fallen angels had softened. I think she understands, deep down, that there was nothing that could have been done to save her mother, but she isn't strong enough to accept that just yet.
It was my fault.
After learning what happened to Akano, I decided to ask Azazel, who was still the VIP on the top floor, about it. He recounted the tragedy from his perspective, surprisingly taking the blame for it all.
It was my call. I was the one who called him that day. I had a job I couldn't pull off without him, so I summoned him away without thinking. And while he was gone, his wife was murdered.
Teach, is that why you've been trying to look after Akano all this time? Azazel fell silent, his hands still busy at his work. At that moment, another figure entered the room. Azazel, I'm back.
Oh, it's you. How did it go?
Wally extended his hand, creating a small magic circle above his palm. That symbol. It looked like some kind of emblem featured in the magic circles that the Norse gods used. I learned a fair amount of Norse magic. I should be able to counter Loki's attacks, at least to an extent, Wally stated. In his other hand, he was holding the same book I seen him reading earlier. Was he seriously studying Norse magic to fight Loki? And he learned it all in such a short period of time? He must have had some serious magic talent. There was no way I could have picked up any new skills so swiftly. Azazel nodded in the confirmation. Good. All right. I'm just about finished here too, so I guess it's time to take a break. Leaving Volley and me behind, Azazel exited the room. An eerie tension filled the chamber. Volley sat down on a nearby sofa and went back to reading his book, while I settled into a seat of reasonable distance away from him. Whenever he wasn't needed, Volley had a habit of disappearing with Biko. I didn't think he liked staying in my house longer than necessary. I guessed that he didn't want to get overly familiar with us. Then again, the same went for me too. I also wanted to leave, but for some reason, I found myself overcome with a sudden urge to try to talk to him a little. No decent topics came to mind, but after a little head scratching, I opened up my mouth. He might be an evil one, but still, I never would have expected to fight a real-life god. I hadn't expected a response from Volley, but to my surprise, without lifting his gaze from his book, he answered. You should keep this in mind. There are good gods and bad ones, and depending on your point of view, the former can still seem like the latter. A god? Why doesn't he want peace? I'm a demon, but all I want to do is live normally and have fun with the present the others day in and day out. Volley closed his book there, turning his gaze up to me. Your peace is excruciating for some people. Excruciating? Did that mean one standard for enjoying life could be different depending on their situation? If so, that was an unhappy thought. I didn't want to get dragged into a war. If only everyone understood the splendor of breasts, maybe we could all live in tranquility. Is the world painful for you too? I inquired. Volley stared up at the ceiling. It's just boring, which is why I'm looking forward to this joint operation. It's going to be fun. His grin was so broad that it sent a shiver down my spine. He really was a battle maniac, the kind of person who lived to fight. I'm not. There are too many super powerful enemies out there. But that's what makes the world so fascinating. I'm going to become stronger than anyone. So, that was Volley's dream, was it? He might have been a heavenly dragon like me, but we had vastly different goals. I'll be happy to be the mightiest of pawns, and to get promoted to a high-class demon. Then I'll make my own harem. Admittedly, becoming an ultimate class demon didn't sound too bad, but it did seem like you needed to achieve something reputable with your underworld territory first. Or maybe I could build a massive business empire off of this whole breast dragon thing. What am I supposed to do? My dreams kept ballooning. That certainly sounds like you, Ollie commented, still smiling. Oh, and I have another goal. I had almost forgotten about the most important one. I stared directly at Volley and declared, I'm going to overcome you. At this, Volley's expression shifted one of the purest joy, something I have never seen on him before. I'll be waiting. I'll be happy too to see you get stronger. I was disappointed when I first met you. You were the weakest of all Red Dragon Emperors. Yet, lately, you've been growing in an entirely new direction. You're probably the first Red Dragon Emperor capable of using those powers, while also being able to communicate with Drake. Is that true, partner?
It is. Didn't I already tell you? You're the first of my hosts in all history to communicate with me this much. And you haven't allowed yourself to drown in my powers or surrender yourself to overconfidence.
Drake paused there, leaving Volley to elaborate. Each of those hosts wielded that incredible, destructive power purely as they liked. And in the end, they were overwhelmed by it, perishing in battle.
You may be the least talented Red Dragon Emperor to ever lived, the weakest in terms of power and every other measure, and yet...
You're the first Red Dragon Emperor to actually learn how to properly use that strength. I could feel my cheeks flushing in embarrassment at Drake's and Volley's words. Was it just me? Or did they have higher expectations for me than I did on myself? That was intimidating in its own way. Even Albion offered his thoughts.
Hosts like that are always the most bothersome. They don't leave many openings when the time comes to do battle.
Volley nodded. That's right. And I had an interesting thought just now. It might be fun to have a team battle, something like a rating game between the two of us one day. A rating game between Volley's group and mine. Yeah, yeah. That does sound like fun. I wasn't entirely sure why, but part of me was really looking forward to such a match. Eh, that sounds good. I'm going to build the strongest family out there, filled with beautiful girls and women. I'm looking forward to it, but I might need to fight the Gremir Familia first. Let's defeat each other someday. Ria's Gremmir's Familia won't lose to you that easily, but you better not try to attack some underhanded terrorist way. I can't promise that. There was no telling when that day would come. However, I wanted, more than I could possibly imagine, to defeat Volley. Ah, the spirit of youth. Whoa. Old Man Odin appeared entirely out of nowhere. Had he already finished all of his work? He looked to be deeply moved by my exchange with Volley. This generation's red and white are unique. You used to do nothing more than rampage, turning any situation into direct confrontation, destroying everything around you, and then kicking the bucket. You both resorted to your juggernaut drives whenever you felt like it. I wonder how many mountains and islands you eradicated. The old man let out a sigh. Rosweiss, who had appeared behind Odin, added, "That one is an obscene dragon, and the other is a terrorist. Yet they're surprisingly calm. When I first met them, I was sure they would break into immediate battle, but now look at them both. Forgive me for being so obscene, but maybe Volley and I were rare, at least for hosts of heavenly dragons. Just what was so different about our predecessors and us, though? Maybe that could have something to do with helping me find a way to resolve the lingering regrets in the boosted gear. Incidentally, White Dragon Emperor, which part do you like the most?" Odin asked Volley with a lecherous smirk. Were the two of them about to start talking about something pervy? "Which part of what exactly?" Volley questioned back, tilting his head one side inquisitively. At that moment, the old geezer pointed first at Rosweiss's breasts, then her buttocks, then her thighs. "Which part of a woman's body? Our Red Dragon Emperor is big on tits. I thought you might have a similar obsession." "Out of the question. I'm not a breast dragon," Volley responded, clearly mortified. "Sorry again. This is all my fault." No, you're a man. There must be some part that you like, isn't there?" "I don't put a lot of thought into this kind of thing. If you're going to make me choose, the hips, maybe," Volley responded offhandedly. "If you ask me, the line from the waist to the hip perfectly symbolizes a woman's beauty." "I see. So, you're an ash dragon emperor." No sooner did that lecherous old geezer murmur those words than Albion started bawling his eyes out. I turned to Odin. "Stop it! Our two heavenly dragons are going through a delicate phase here." How could I not feel empathetic towards Drake and Albion? This could well have been the first issue in their whole lives that had literally shocked them both to tears. I needed to be more considerate of Drake in the future. "Don't cry, Albion. I'm always here to talk." Even Volley had kind words for his partner. The two heavenly dragons really have entered a delicate phase. "You poor thing. Maybe someone will write a fairy tale about you one day. The pitiful dragon. Odin, cut it out already." The old man cleared his throat. "Yep, it's good to be young." All of a sudden, he sounded like a more dignified elder. "What do you mean?" I asked. Odin stroked his beard. "Until the present age, I was convinced that this wrinkled fool could solve anything just by drawing from a big bag of wisdom. But that's just arrogance of the aged. What matters most are the possibilities that you striplings bring to the table. Oh, I only truly realized that recently. I've been such an idiot. My pride gave birth to Loki. And now, because of my arrogance, you youngins have to suffer these trials." The old man's eyes seemed to fill with regret to me. I didn't quite follow his train of thought, however. "I'm not sure I get it, but shouldn't we just keep moving forward, one step at a time? I suggested casually. That was the principle I lived by. Odin's expression, however, was one of mute shock. What, what was that dramatic response? Then he started to chuckle in amusement. It's good to be young. Yes, talking to you youngins sure gets his old blood flowing. I was still lost, but at least the old man looked happy. I sat cross-legged in a meditative position in an empty room in my house, dressed in no more than my trousers, with my chest and upper body exposed. I was trying to focus, to bury my consciousness into my sacred gear. Azazel had instructed me to try this. It was all an attempt to discover new possibilities. Having reached my limit after half an hour, my concentration faltered, and I took a deep breath. It was no good. With Drake's help, I tried to immerse myself in the sacred gear, yet it was like swimming through the pitch darkness. And after passing through it, I came only to a white expanse. It was filled with tables and chairs, with people who looked to be former hosts of Red Dragon Emperors sitting at each. They all wore hollow expressions, as though robbed of all awareness. I should have expected as much. They were merely residual memories after all. According to Drake, they regained their full sense of self only when I entered the Juggernaut Drive. When that happened, they would ceaselessly bombard me with curses, all in an effort to make my Juggernaut Drive go out of control. I tried talking to them one by one, but never got a reaction. The mental burden of delving this deep into my sacred gear was severe, so I couldn't stay there for long. Ultimately, I had to call it a day without achieving anything. This wasn't going to be easy. Could I really push the powers of the Red Dragon Emperor to the next level just by conversing with all my predecessors? Either way, I would just have to try mediating patiently again tomorrow. Persistence was the key to moving forward. The door to my room swung open. I glanced up to see who it was and saw Akano dressed in a thin white gown. She had already sucked the accumulated dragon power out of my arms a couple days ago. We didn't need to do it again so soon. She closed the door behind her. Oh, hold on. Did she just lock it? She was wearing her hair down, and her expression was somehow coquettish. Issei? Yeah. Her voice was small and weak. She approached me slowly, and then, with a rustling of silk, she pulled at the obi, holding her gown closed, and then let it... It fell to the ground. Blood gushed down my nose. Akano was as naked as the day she was born. Her white, exposed body. It wasn't just her breasts that I had full view of. I went still at this unbelievable development. Breasts. And more. She drew closer to me while I was paralyzed and wrapped her arms around my neck. And then she embraced me. Her arms, her thighs, her whole body. They were all wrapping around me so wonderfully. My brain was overloaded from the soft, exhilarating, elastic sensation of her feminine flesh. Akano. Why was her body so tender, so deliciously soft, so wonderfully silky? She was pushing her breast up against my chest with all of her strength. I could feel her nipples against my skin. I was helpless when faced with this wonderful sensation of a woman. Her glossy velvet hair gave off a sweet scent. Ah, why do all girls have to smell so nice? As her fragrant aroma filled my nostrils, my brain erupted into a bloom like a field of flowers. Then, she drew up close to my ear and whispered, "Make love to me." What? My brain stopped for a moment. Once it started working again, I suffered an explosive nosebleed. Make love. Out of all the phrases that I wanted to hear from a girl, Akano had just said the absolute number one. But seriously, that is what this means, right? It is, isn't it? Her breast felt wonderful as she hugged me naked. Her pale skin was so dazzling. I had no idea where to put my hands, so I left them hanging in the air. Was my first time going to be with Akano? He stared straight into my face, our eyes meeting. Akano's expression seemed hollow somehow. Her gaze had a desperate, almost self-destructive cast, as though she didn't care what happened to her. She drew closer to my face and tried to kiss me. If I'd let this become real, I might find myself pushing her down, and we might go all the way. This was my chance, perhaps the greatest, most fruitfulest opportunity of my life. And yet, I knew it wasn't right. I rested my hand on Akano's shoulder, gingerly moving her away. The skin beneath my palms felt supple and wonderful, very nearly destroying my sense of reason. I had to endure. I mean, this was wrong. Why, aren't I attractive enough? She said, voice trembling. Judging by her reaction, she must have thought that I would have embraced her back. There was nothing to be gained by lying, so my only chance was to tell her the truth. No, not at all. You're amazing. I could never grow tired of your huge, soft breasts, no matter how many times I touch them. I want to stroke your waist, grab a hold of your butt, squeeze your perfectly proportioned thighs. I want to relish every last part of you and bury my face in your chest. Then why don't you? I want you to. I want to give my body to you, and I want you to embrace me in your arms and make everything else go away. You can push past all those things that keep rising up in front of me. Why don't you? Because you look sad. Judging by Akano's expression, it looked like that statement snapped her out of whatever was going on. When you do something naughty with me, you usually look like you're having fun, Akano. But right now, it seems to me that you're doing this to push away sadness. You're right. But does saying that change anything? I'm trying to clear my mind by letting you make love to me, so that I can go into battle free of doubts. I thought curling up in a man's chest would free me from all these negative emotions. It was totally wrong. Even if I did help her feel better, it would only be temporary. That hardly seemed like a genuine solution. I picked up the gown that Agano had let fall to the floor and draped it over her body. Then I hugged her softly. My brain went haywire as her body pressed against mine again, but I forced myself to remain rational. I can hold you like this. We don't have to do anything naughty. I'm filled with lecherous thoughts. I really want to do it with you, Akano, but not when you're feeling so awful. Issei. Despite knowing about Akano's past, I was too much of an idiot to come up with anything appropriate to say. Nonetheless, if she's willing to lean on me, I would hold her until she felt safe. Akano didn't say anything for a while. It seemed to me that she was grappling with some conflicting emotions ever since her reunion with her father. With nowhere else to turn, she must have sought for false relief in the arms of a man, me. But that would only scar her even more. It wouldn't do. Akano would definitely regret it later. Thus, I reasoned that it was best to simply tell her my true feelings. Holding Akano tight, I whispered into her ear, I'll stay by your side. Whenever you feel sad or lonely, I'll be there to hold you like this. So please, don't feel down, Akano. It was all I could do. I'm such a fool. You are too, Issei. Probably. But I'll still protect you, Akano. Issei, thank you. I love you. Her saddened voice sounded somehow relieved. We remained hugging each other until Akano felt well enough to leave. Akano, I'm good enough for you. I'll stick with you forever, so please, find a way to return to your usual cheerful self. That night, the Prez, Ozzy, and I lay together in bed. Rias and Ozzy had already fallen asleep, but I was preoccupied with thoughts of Akano and the upcoming battle. For one day, a lot happened. I had spoken to Volley, met a Dragon King, learned about Akano's past, heard Azazel's thoughts about new possibilities. I was glad that I hadn't wounded Akano any further. All of a sudden, my body trembled with anxiety. It was no mystery why. I was scared because the day of the battle was drawing near. We were up against a god. That was terrifying. I wanted to run away and hide. If possible, I didn't want to fight at all. I could very well end up dead. Obviously, that wasn't an option. After hearing out Sir Zax, the press had decided to pursue the course of action. My only choice was to believe her and push forward. To protect my friends, to defend the woman whom I loved. Use all my powers to overcome this new trial. Can't sleep? That was the press's voice. I turned around and found her lying there, staring at me. Akano looked happy earlier. Did something happen? Oh, had Riaz noticed? We didn't do anything naughty. Blurted out, looking away. At this reaction, the Prez, her eyes half-lidded, pinched my cheek. I didn't ask you that. You are telling the truth, though. Yes, I'm still a virgin. At this, she finally released my cheek. Good. The Prez sure was strict with her servants. I stroked my still painful cheek. Then she took my hand in her own and began to guide it through the cap of her negligee and to her breasts. This was it. The Prez's breasts. They were so smooth, so elastic, so huge and soft. My fingers have never known a more incredible sensation. I've reached a point where whenever I thought about the feeling of boobs, it was always the Prez's that sprang to mind. Prez? I could feel a trickle of blood leaking down my nose. Your heart is racing, isn't it? She asked me gently. Of course it is. We're going to be fighting a god soon. I'm nervous too. I can feel Riaz's heartbeat through my hand. I know that, but why are you letting me touch your breasts? You don't remember. When we went to the underworld, I promised to let you touch them, didn't I? And I thought this might be the best way to help you relax. You're so anxious that you can't sleep, aren't you? I was no match for her. She was incredible, this Prez of mine. You'll be fighting on the front line, an incredibly important position, against the deity. I'm sure you're fretting about it. That's why you're still up, right? The great lady knew everything. She had seen right through me. Yes, I'm scared. I'm honored to be given this role, but I'm frightened. Can I really do it? What will happen if I fail? All this pressure being put on me is nerve-wracking. There I was, doing something I would never have thought to do, learning my weaknesses out to the Prez. Why? Normally, I would never be able to say this to anyone, but with my hand on her breast, confessing to Riaz was only natural, and it did put me at ease. It's okay. You can tell me what's on your mind. I love everything about you, Issei, including your weaknesses. There was no way I would be able to show this side of myself to Azir or Akano, yet with the Prez, I could. They were so squishy, and holding them was enough to soothe my heart. There was something mysterious about her chest. Was that because they were the breasts of a loved one, or because they were my masters? I couldn't say for certain, but they undoubtedly possessed a special kind of power that relieved my anxieties. Maybe it's because I'm the breast dragon, but touching them is genuinely relaxing. The Prez stroked my cheek. That's fine. You can be a breast dragon. You're my pride and joy, Issei. Be strong. I believe in your dreams of becoming the mightiest of pawns. Prez, if my chest comforts you and makes you stronger, then I'm happy to be your switch princess. Your private switch princess. I couldn't ask for anything more than to be the source of your power, my dear Issei. The Prez's face drew close to mine, until her lips quietly pressed up against my own. Our third kiss. It was gentler, deeper, and it lasted much longer than the previous ones had. For you and the others, I will become the mightiest as I can be. That's a promise. Yo, Gramps. It's almost time for your conference. We're just about ready over here. Zhejiao. What's up? You're looking pretty serious there for once. I'm starting to think that my style of governance has caused quite a few problems, not only for my own country, but the youngins here too. I always hated you Norse gods, holding yourselves up in your northern waste with your antiquated way of thinking. But then you stepped onto the stage, ready to join us when we reached out in peace and cooperation. I am an old clod, but every now and then, I'd like to see how you striplings think. And when I considered the future of all them youngins back home, I started wondering if maybe forging a new path wasn't so bad after all. Make that dream come true, Gramps. That's why you came here to see the Japanese gods, right? Sure, you claim to be sightseeing, but you were really here to learn about their mythological system, weren't you? It was all for the sake of ensuring the talks go well. You could count on us for help. I don't need you to tell me that, but just for today, Maybe. I'm willing to share a drink with you, boyo.